Hey, it's the Chief Bonnie with Board Games. We're going to be reviewing Feudum. I brought along coffee to keep me going and whiskey as like a celebration. There was a point where I wasn't sure I would review Feudum. More on that later. You'll notice this isn't a wall of games, it's a wall of whiskey. Check out Scotch Test Dummies, Selfish Plug. That's my other show on YouTube. What is Feudum? It's a game by Mark Swanson. He kickstarted it. Generally loved. But it's a heavy euro. Okay. To me, it looked like a light, fanciful family euro. More on that in final thoughts. I'm going to go in and give you just a little show of what it is. You're not going to be able to learn how to play from what I'm about to tell you. So if you're looking for that, might as well turn it off now. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to be able to play just based on what I'm going to show you. Think of it more as an overview of what goes on in the game rather than how to play the game. Let's go take a look. All right, Feudum. First of all, let me tell you real quick before I tell you how pretty that box is and how pretty this board is. This is not going to be a teaching portion. You're not going to know how to play based on what I'm about to tell you. It's just going to give you an overview. So, yes, it's gorgeous. Whimsical even. It looks, to me, which you'll hear more later, like a lighter, friendlier, familiar style Euro. Nope. Heavy, crunchy, sandboxy. A lot of cool stuff you can do. Slightly confusing, hard to teach. Let me roll down and show you the board. Board is gorgeous. It's very long. You've got multiple different regions in here. They're all sectioned out. I won't go into it. You got an epoch tracker. You got some region tiles that are going to start triggering off the changing of the epochs. You've got your guilds. There's 6 of them, and they wrap around over here. So almost think of it more like a clock because they all interact with each other based on whether you're left of a guild or to the right of a guild. They'll call it trade, push and pull. More on that later. How you win. You'll see around the corner or around the edges is like your racetrack, victory point racetrack. You're going to score things when you do them. You will have end of epoch scoring, and then you will have final end game scoring. So there's going to be immediate points. There's 5 different epochs, and you're going to be scoring on the end of the first, second, third, and fourth. And when you get to the end of the 5th, that's going to be your final game scoring, and then who won. These region tiles will be sliding off the top, and if you were to look, there's a 2 under there and a 3 under there, and these are going to get pulled off, and there's a little chart right here, which I'm really not going to go into, that's going to tell you, hey, we've ended around, and hey, we've triggered the end of an epoch. The components are really quite stunning, but there is a lot going on. When I taught this, it took an hour and a half, and you're like, whoa, hey, the game? The teaching, I was sure I was mucking it up. Everything really reads straightforward. The heart of it is cards, which I will get to, and taking actions with those cards. So I even got online, BGG, and checked a few things out and read a couple different reviews and watched a few different things and found out, okay, my hour and a half teaching deal was maybe slightly long, but an hour and 10 is about what a real good person can teach it in. So I'm not a great person on teaching. So I'll tell you right now, the reason behind that is you can do this action. However, if you are a guild master, you can do this, or you do this. However, if somebody's right next to you, however, there's a lot of howevers, and they're all different based on the particular action thing that you're doing. A little bit more on that later, but not too much. So I'm not going to dive too deep. I will tell you real quick, I love this rule book. This rule book's great. Matter of fact, it feels like, that's why I kept thinking I'm doing something wrong. Everything's laid out pretty easy. Yeah, I knew there's an exception, there's a caveat, there's an advanced rule. You really got to play with the advanced rules, in my opinion. But the explanation. This is a little splash page on what is everything. So the terminology is not the problem. It's not hard to explain what this is, what that region is, what this guild is. That's easy. The rule book was great. This luscious splash page, this is your setup. This is how you're going to set everybody up, pre-stage the board, get everything ready. Beautiful, easy. Took a little time the first time I did it, but it was just me putting stuff out on the board. Great. Okay. By the way, if you're watching the board closely, the starting circles, the board has a little marker and special markers here. If I can get it to, sorry, it's not focusing. So I leave them like this, but they get flipped over. It's a random way to start. I'll cover what these do here in a bit. But I love this. So you're in and you're going. The rules lay out very nice. The deal is there's so many actions and things that you're going to do within those actions that it gets very, very difficult to teach. I'll talk about more on that in my final wrap-up. Player aid board, great. You'll probably be, or the teacher will be keeping the rules out and explaining that as they go too. Your pawns, I like to say, I thought they were just wooden dice that I'd be rolling, but these are pawns, and almost think of them like role players, or that's what I do. The pawns, six-sided pawns, each side matches one of the guilds. So you have knights, and the sheep is the farmer, and you have an alchemist, and when you put a card allows you to put people out, they allow special things and little things and howevers go on. Okay. The main part, I'm going to tell you, there's 5 actions that are going to go on. I'm just going to briefly go over it. You're going to have 11 cards. You're going to pick 4 of these, sometimes 5, and then there's some other things that can happen, but you're going to pick these. I'll explain these more in a bit. You're going to pick 4. Let's just say 4. Sometimes it's different, but you're going to pick 4. Everybody else's table picks 4. Then you begin. Whoever's the starting player grabs one of their 4. Some cards say you can't play them last, or you got to play them in this kind of thing, but generally you can pick your order. I pull out the action selection card. I show everybody. I take said action, and it's really a pretty simple, straightforward action. So hard to teach, but pretty straightforward to play. Again, more on that later. I've completed my action. There's very little downtime. Boom, the more downtime is in selecting what 4 cards out of the 11, not in playing them, although sometimes things get messed up or your plans get shot. But next person grabs one of their cards, does the same thing, does the action. Whoop, same. Back to me, I grab another one of my cards. Do it. Do the thing. And it goes around, goes around, goes around. Everybody depletes those cards that they have. They've taken their actions. We then check, and there's a feeding phase. So if you have these guys on the board, they've got to get fed. You're then going to check and see on these region tiles, and if there's a little chart that tells you, I won't go into it, whoop, it may tell you, yep, we've hit enough 2s. Okay, and then these go all the way down to the 4. And you'll be like, okay, we've hit a thing. We've hit a thing. That's a great explanation. We've achieved the condition that's going to end the epoch. So there is, again, the scoring that's happened while we were doing our little card action things. Okay, those are immediate. Now we're going to do an end of epoch scoring, which is going to trigger off things here and influence and some stuff, and I'm not going to go into it. You're going to get the waving magical hand. And then we would start a new round, and we would be in epoch 2. And you would go around, and you're just checking again at the end. Did we do it? Do we do it? Yeah. What's going to happen is those epochs are going to click off, click, 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 click. If you find yourself at the end of the 5th epoch, that triggers in-game scoring, not just end of epoch scoring. That's final scoring, and you'll do that. That's the end of the game. Whoever's got the most victory points wins. And there's a lot more going on. But let me show you the cards. All right. So I like the art. Let me explain a few things. So you're going to have the name of the action that you're selecting, your iconography, which I'll explain in a second, and then This is the special rule. By the way, this is an alchemist, which ties in. If you see, it's kind of neat. I like the look of it, like you're flipping up the tablecloth or whatever, and underneath is your special action. But I want to explain right now just what you've got going on. So you've got migrate and move and influence and improve and explore and harvest and tax and conquer and defend and repeat, which I like, but this one's going to have some weird stuff I'll explain to you, and a guild action. And again, you can only select generally 4 of these out of the 11 when you set the cards up that are going to allow you to then take the actions. Now it's nice. You're going to usually want to do way more than 4. And so you got tough decisions. And then these lead to very rapid play as you're going around the table. But here's the problem. It's a lot of different actions, and there's a lot of different things you can do on the board. And these are what takes so long to teach, which is why I'm going to be very glossy as I explain them. And if there's 11 of these, that means there's also 11 of these special actions. So now there's really 22 things that you got to kind of know what's going on. And then there's some interesting rules. Again, I'm glossing over here. Like if you were to select this 2 times action, well, that means you can take one of the 4 cards that you've gathered and played, and you could then later play, hey, this 2-time action. And you're now allowed to take that action a second time, unless, see, like right here it says, yeah, so you can do that. This card doesn't have that, so you can't do it a second time. This card you could do a second time. This one doesn't have it, so you can't, and I'm going to come up here. This says you never can. There's an X, and you're like, what? Well, how come these just had nothing? Well, that's because if you do the special action, then you can actually play one of the ones that doesn't have the 2 times a second time, unless, or however, it has the red X. Then you can never use that. So you can never do a second defend, or sorry, a second conquer or a second defend. Whoo! Okay, so not hard, but you can see, okay, great, the 2 times. I can do it. I can do it. Can't do it. Whoop, special, I could do it. Defend, conquer, could not do it. That's kind of what I'm talking about. All right, so I'm going to just generally walk through these quickly to kind of explain generally what's going on, so you got to feel. But this is the difficulty. This is the problem in teaching, the caveats. So, can I do this quickly? As I already said, you're going to take one of your pawns. You simply pick what you want them to be. That's up to you. You put them on the board. If you have none of these on there, you put them in one of the start spaces. Otherwise, there's some different rules, or you can put them down next to your other guys, or if they're an alchemist. Won't go much further than that. The move card. It's point-to-point movement of your pawn, which means you can, keep that in frame, which means if this is in a space, you can move it to the next space. There is a very neat thing here. I'm not going to show it on the board. It's a little subtle. It's a little pretty to look at. But if you're in a water area, sometimes there's bubbles. That means if you have a submersible, which you can either get from the alchemist or pick up abandoned, probably not going to explain that any further, you can use this to travel through the water area as long as there's bubbles, like it's underwater. And it's neat. I like that. All right, then you've got just, if I can get it in focus, the normal ship. The normal ship you'll see in the water area, there's waves. So if you've got this, you can move through waves. And I love the air ship. There are little wings, and you can, instead of using a road, and I fell on the floor, you could use that to move around. So you're either point-to-point moving. All right, let me show you. You're either going to be point-to-point moving, going down the road, or you could see there's some little waves or dots or submersible bubbles or There's wings coming across. Okay, so that's your movement. It's, again, pretty straightforward. Let me come back and lock it. All right, I did such a poor job of explaining the influence card that I'm back in after post. So the influence card, you get to add an influence marker to every location that has a pawn in it. Let me cut. I'm going to show you the board real quick. It'll be a little easier to show you that. All right, so I've got 2 pawns out here on the board next to locations. I'm the first. Since I'm the first with the influence, I can place directly on these locations. One's a farm, this one's an outpost. Now let's say I had been second on one of these, all right? I won't use the other one. If I would be here as a ruler, I'm the first, but if I was coming in second here for some reason, I would be a serf, and I would not go on top of the location. A ruler can even come in on a subsequent turn and add what they call a subject. I'm going no deeper with that other than to say that your rule may increase your guild status, and then it can get you some more victory points for regions. A couple things with the pawns. If you only have 1 pawn on the board, you can only move 1 space. If you have 2 or 3 pawns, you could move 1 pawn 3 or 2, depending on however many people you got on the board, or you can split that moving around. So if I had 3 pawns out there, I can move 1 pawn 3 or 1 pawn 2 and 1 pawn 1, and I'm saying pawn a lot, and I'm on the cross. Because the card, special ability, you'll notice the monks here, is Godspeed, and allows the monk to basically, the monk pawn, take an extra turn. An improved card, very Euro-ish, and it's really quite self-explanatory. But let me grab some outposts, some farms, and a town. So on the board, you have outposts, and you have farms, those are like rows. You have towns, and then you also have, matching all of the different symbols in regards to the guilds, you have feudums. So this will be where you simply are upgrading. If you have, if you're able to turn in a resource of a wood, you can take an outpost and turn it into a farm. And if you were to take a subsequent action with the farm and you were to turn in iron, you could turn that into a town. And if you're able to get a king's seal, which is way over there, a king's seal, you would be able to turn it into a feudum. And this is another one of those that if I go in and explain kind of everything that's going on with this will take an hour. So I'm not going to explain the special. All right, I'm going to speed up. Explore actions. If you have an outpost, all right, you can come in and you can get writs of from the king. The king's writ, the royal writ. It's the royal writ. Think of them as in-game bonus scoring conditions. Harvest action, if you rule, and I'm not explaining all this, I know if you rule a farm, then you actually get to go into the haversack, which is really cool. It's basically reaching into the bag, and there's a bunch of little cubes in there that have goods, and you're going to pull 5 of them out. They're going to just go into your farm. There's all kinds of cool little specials that you can do based on rosary beads. Yeah, if you have rosary beads, you might be able to draw, like in this case, if I can get it to focus, it's a +2. I could draw 2 more goods out of there. And if I had the farmer action cube, then I could look at them and it wouldn't be random. Tax, straightforward, get 2 money. Get 2 money. And by the way, if you have towns or feudums, you get +1 to that. So if I had 2 towns, I would get 4 money. Conquer. If I have a pawn, one of my dudes is in the same space as another player's dude, we can fight. Remember, you can't ever do this twice, and this means you can't play it last. So there is a little bit of controlling order with this. And the special action here, I'm just going to leave you with starve the people. You can starve the people. Defend action. So again, you can't do it twice, and you want this in your hand. If you know you're going to get attacked, you can add it in, and it's going to add your defense. The repeat action I've kind of already explained. So salt is what that is. Salt, which is what allows you to do the special. There's salt and there's sulfur, and there's some things that I'm not going to explain sufficiently. The guild action. Now this is like a whole separate can of worms in and of itself. Let me just pan over to a guild. Sorry, jerky. All right. So you have a trade area. That's a trade area, that's a trade area, that's a trade area. They're all in the same spot on the other side of the board as well. Anybody, even if you don't have any kind of journeyman or a guild master, you can trade. So you can do trading. I'm not going to get in and explain it. If you're the guild master, which means you have the most influence in a guild, you can push items into the next guild. And again, it would wrap around. If you were coming from the alchemist, it would go over to the knight. There are ways as you push things to score victory points. I'm not going to explain that any further. If you're the journeyman, means you're in there, but you don't have the most influence, you can pull goods from your left and you can pull them into your guild, and you're going to score victory points. So guild masters will push to the right, or I like to think clockwise, and the journeyman will pull them from their left. Also still going in clockwise, but you're pulling it in rather than pushing it out. So there's trading, there's guild masters pushing, and there are journeymen pulling things into their area. This is also where if you pull something in, you're going to get 3 victory points, and then you can draw a writ card, and there's some stuff you can do. And then if you are pushing them out, it gets convoluted, and you can score like 4 or 5, I think, and 6 victory points. And then there's a whole lot of other stuff that is going on that I'm not going to explain. That, folks, is an overview, not an explanation. Again, the only reason I have these upside down is so you can see that they are the starting randomizers. You can see kind of the matching stuff going on there. Okay. All right, we are back. Woo! So here's the deal. This feudum is not my cup of tea. Do I like playing Euro games? Yes. Do I like playing super heavy Euro games? Not usually. To give you an idea of where I'm at, Power Grid I love. And that's probably, and you'll laugh, some of you will be like, that's probably the height of my Euro-ness. I love Knizia games, but those are more trading and lower level. So I love the sandbox feel. Again, I kind of compared it to Zaya, how you can do so many different things, and you can just say, I'm going to try this thing this time. This time I'm going to try to just do all these feudums, and this time I'm going to try to fight. This time I want to just bring the monsters on. This time I want to farm until my hands bleed. I love that. And that is the part that still attracts me to this game. The part that does not attract me to this game is the amount of time it takes to teach. I played, I grokked the rules, I got the cards, there's nothing overly hard with the actions, although all the little caveats, and then if you want to do this, but if you're this, then this caveat, I'm not a fan of that. I think that could have been cleaned up, because it makes explaining all of the 11 cards and the guilds and how they function, and then putting the stuff on the map and how that works, it makes it very clunky. The cool thing is if you sit down to play this and you kind of understand it, you can say, you know what, I want to try this novel strategy that kept popping through my head, and I want to see if I can make that work. And this game, the way it's set up, you'll be able to do it. You'll figure out your card play, and you'll trigger it off, and you'll see if that thing that you came up with will work or not. Sandbox. So that part's phenomenal. Where I'm personally at in my gaming world, which is really family light, Euro, war game light, Ameritrashy, it caught me off guard. So I'm going to say that this Technicolor and the monsters and everything seemed like it was going to, when I was, Mark emailed me and said, do you want a review copy? I said, let me go check it out. I'm a slow game player. I just am. And I can't work through too many games. And I looked at it, and it looked so neat. And I knew it was a Euro, and I thought, oh, it's going to hit in a family-friendly Euro-y kind of deal. And I love the monster. That's not where this is at. Heavy, heavy, crunchy, crunchy. So many different things to do, and several caveats on what triggers what, how this triggers, and what does that do, and oh yeah, what's the special on that card, what's the pawn I have, what does the knight do, can I use the rosary bead, what about the writ? So, if you like that, and you've stayed and tuned in, even knowing that I'm not a heavy, heavy, crunchy Kanban kind of guy, it may even be a dream game for you. I just know personally, this probably isn't going to hit the table again until I think in 7 or 8 years I'll be retired. My boys will be older, and I can see me getting this out and having a game group where that game group comes in and it's the same group of folks, and I'll be like, let's do game 7. Let's do another one. But here's the deal. If it's 4 of the people or 3 people show up that have played it several times, and there's one newbie, and they're like, hey, I heard this Feudum game. I'm going to have to teach it to you, and it's going to take me an hour plus. For me, probably an hour and 30 minutes to teach it to the one person. Can't do it. I'd have to have them come over separate, teach them, play a little 2-player deal, and then have them come in, which is fine. Some folks can do that. I'm sure they do. I can't right now. I just don't have the gaming time to do that. Maybe in retirement. Maybe in retirement. It looks good. It's pretty. Production's great. Where I think it meets people right where they are. I do believe if it had hit a publisher, they would have maybe slimmed it down, made the base game a little more gruckable, straightforward, easier to get into, less hard to teach, whether that's streamline some of the actions or maybe cut some stuff out so that there's 2 other expansions. I know there's already expansions, but maybe the base game was a little more base. I don't know. But that being said, there's so many cool things you can do in here. I know people will be like, oh, screw you. Don't do that. Mark, you got a great game. People love it. It just won't hit the table until I retire in 7 to 8 years. See you guys. Chief. Bonding with board games. Feudum. The cool abomination monster. And the serpent.